What if I told you that one of the most powerful and influential shinobi in the entire Naruto universe lived for only 16 years? What if I told you that this same shinobi possessed abilities so terrifying that even the legendary Itachi Uchiha called him stronger than himself? And what if I told you that his death changed the course of shinobi history, forever setting in motion events that would lead to the Fourth Great Ninja War? Today we're diving deep into the tragic and incredible story of Shisui Uchiha, the man known as Shisui of the Body Flicker. This isn't just another character breakdown. This is the complete unfiltered story of a shinobi whose legacy shaped the fate of the Hidden Leaf Village and the entire ninja world. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Shisui's story is one of the most heartbreaking and heroic tales in all of anime. I've spent countless hours researching every detail, every fight, every moment that defined this legendary Uchiha. We're going to explore his childhood, his rise to power, his incredible abilities, and the ultimate sacrifice that saved his village. Trust me when I say that everything you think you know about Shisui Uchiha is just the tip of the iceberg. So buckle up because we're about to uncover the entire story of one of the most underrated characters in Naruto history. This is going to be an emotional ride that will change how you see the Uchiha clan forever. Let's begin with the world Shisui was born into. The Hidden Leaf Village in the years following the Third Great Ninja War was a place of uneasy peace. The Uchiha clan, once proud founders of Konoha, alongside the Senju, had been systematically marginalized and pushed to the outskirts of the village. Suspicion hung in the air like morning mist, and tensions between the Uchiha and the village leadership grew stronger with each passing day. Into this volatile environment was born Shisui Uchiha, a child who would grow up to embody both the greatest potential and the deepest tragedy of his legendary bloodline. From the very beginning, Shisui was different, while other Uchiha children played with wooden kunai and practiced basic jutsu. Shisui displayed an intuitive understanding of chakra manipulation that astounded even the clan elders. The Uchiha clan had always prided itself on producing exceptional shinobi, but Shisui represented something unprecedented. His natural talent wasn't just impressive, it was revolutionary. By the age of 7, he had already begun developing techniques that would later become the stuff of legend. His chakra control was so precise that he could perform jutsu with minimal hand signs, and his speed was already beginning to hint at the incredible abilities he would later master. But perhaps most remarkably, Shisui possessed something that set him apart from almost every other member of his clan, an unwavering loyalty to the Hidden Leaf Village that transcended his loyalty to the Uchiha name. While his clansmen grew increasingly bitter about their treatment by the village leadership, Shisui saw himself first and foremost as a leaf shinobi. This perspective would define every major decision he made throughout his tragically short life. The young Uchiha's training began under the watchful eye of his clan, but it quickly became apparent that traditional methods wouldn't be sufficient for someone of his caliber. His instructors had to constantly adapt their teaching techniques to keep pace with his rapid development. What took other students months to master, Shisui absorbed in days. His understanding of combat theory, chakra manipulation, and tactical analysis advanced at a rate that bordered on supernatural. By his 10th birthday, Shisui had already caught the attention of the village's leadership. His combination of natural talent, dedication, and most importantly, his genuine love for the village made him an ideal candidate for advanced training. Unlike many of his Uchiha peers who viewed non-clan members with suspicion or disdain, Shisui formed genuine friendships across clan lines. He trained alongside Hyuga, Akamichi, and Shinobi from dozens of other families, earning their respect through his skill and their friendship through his character. It was during these formative years that Shisui first began to understand the complex political dynamics that would ultimately define his fate. The Uchiha clan's resentment toward the village wasn't just about pride or tradition. It was rooted in real grievances and legitimate concerns about their treatment. The clan had been forced to relocate to a compound on the village's outskirts, effectively isolating them from the rest of Konoha. They were excluded from important village decisions despite their significant contributions to the village's founding and defense. Shisui found himself caught between two worlds. His love for his clan was genuine and deep, but his commitment to the village's well-being was equally strong. He began to see himself as a bridge between these two communities, someone who could help heal the growing divide through understanding and cooperation. This idealistic vision would drive many of his later actions, even as the situation between his clan and the village continued to deteriorate. The first major milestone in Shisui's development came when he awakened his Sharingan at the remarkably young age of 8. Even by Uchiha standards, this was considered exceptional. Most clan members didn't activate their Sharingan until their teenage years, and many never progressed beyond the basic 3 Tumo stage. Shisui's early awakening hinted at the incredible potential that lay dormant within his bloodline. But the awakening of his Sharingan wasn't just a testament to his natural ability, it was also a response to the emotional turmoil he felt watching his clan and village drift further apart. The Sharingan, as all Uchiha knew, was born from strong emotions, particularly loss and trauma. For Shisui, that trauma came not from personal loss, but from witnessing the slow destruction of the harmony he so desperately wanted to preserve. His Sharingan developed at an unprecedented rate. Within months of its initial awakening, Shisui had progressed to the 2-tomo stage, and by his 12th birthday, he had achieved the full 3-tomo Sharingan that many adult Uchiha never reached. His visual prowess allowed him to read enemy movements with incredible precision copy jutsu at a glance and see through even the most sophisticated illusions. But Shisui's true genius lay not just in his Sharingan, but in how he combined it with his other abilities. His natural speed, already impressive, became truly extraordinary when enhanced by his visual jutsu. He could track multiple opponents, simultaneously predict their movements, and respond with techniques that seemed to bend the laws of physics. This combination of abilities earned him his first nickname among his peers, the Prodigy. As Shisui entered his teenage years, his reputation began to spread beyond the Hidden Leaf Village. Stories of the young Uchiha who moved like lightning and struck with the precision of a master craftsman reached the ears of enemy villages and allied nations alike. His name became synonymous with excellence, and his techniques became the subject of study and speculation among shinobi across the elemental nations. It was around this time that Shisui began developing the technique that would make him truly legendary. The body flicker technique, known to most shinobi as a basic transportation jutsu, became something entirely different in Shisui's hands. Through countless hours of practice and an innate understanding of space-time manipulation, he transformed this simple technique into an art form that defied comprehension. Most shinobi could use the body flicker to move quickly from one location to another, but they could only maintain the technique for short distances and brief moments. Shisui, however, could sustain the technique indefinitely, moving at speeds that made him appear to teleport. More impressively, he could create multiple flickering afterimages that confused enemies about his true location. These weren't mere visual tricks, they were semi-solid manifestations of his chakra that could interact with the physical world. The development of this technique required not just incredible chakra control, but also a deep understanding of human perception and psychology. Shisui studied how the human eye tracked movement, how the brain processed visual information, and how to exploit the tiny delays in human reaction time. His body flicker became less of a movement technique and more of a form of advanced psychological warfare. Training with this technique pushed Shisui to his absolute limits. He would practice for hours each day, pushing his chakra reserves to the breaking point, and forcing his body to adapt to the incredible stresses of high-speed movement. The physical toll was enormous. His bones and muscles had to be constantly reinforced with chakra to prevent them from tearing apart under the strain. His nervous system had to be retrained to process information at superhuman speeds. But perhaps the most challenging aspect of mastering the body flicker was learning to maintain his humanity while moving at inhuman speeds. At maximum velocity, Shisui existed in a state where seconds felt like minutes, where he could observe and analyze entire battles in the space between heartbeats. This accelerated perception could have driven him mad, but instead he used it to develop an even deeper appreciation for life and the precious nature of every moment. As his abilities reached new heights, Shisui began to attract attention from the village's most elite units. The ANBU Black Ops Konoha's premier special forces organization had been watching his development with great interest. His combination of incredible skill, unwavering loyalty, and mature judgment made him an ideal candidate for their ranks. The invitation to join ANBU came when Shisui was just 13 years old, making him one of the youngest operatives in the organization's history. The training was brutal, designed to break down even the most accomplished shinobi and rebuild them into perfect weapons for the village's protection. Shisui not only survived this training, but excelled beyond all expectations. His ANBU training revealed new depths to Shisui's character that even his clan hadn't fully recognized. The rigorous psychological conditioning designed to strip away personal attachments and create emotionless killing machines had the opposite effect on him. Instead of becoming cold and detached, Shisui developed an even stronger sense of empathy and compassion. He understood that true strength came not from the ability to kill without feeling, but from the wisdom to know when killing was necessary and when it could be avoided. During his first year in ANBU, Shisui participated in dozens of covert missions that took him far beyond the borders of the Fire Country. He infiltrated enemy strongholds, gathered critical intelligence, and eliminated threats to village security with surgical precision. His body flicker technique proved invaluable in these operations, allowing him to complete objectives that would have required entire teams of conventional operatives. As Shisui's abilities continued to evolve, he began developing techniques that went far beyond conventional ninjutsu. His mastery of the body flicker had taught him to manipulate not just his own movement through space, but his perception of time itself. He could accelerate his thoughts to superhuman speeds, allowing him to analyze complex situations and formulate strategies in milliseconds. This accelerated thinking, combined with his Sharingan's predictive abilities, made Shisui nearly unbeatable in combat. He could see his opponent's attacks before they were even fully formed in their minds, respond to threats that hadn't yet materialized, and execute counterattacks with perfect timing. His battles became exercises in inevitability rather than contests of skill. But perhaps his most remarkable development during this period was his growing understanding of genjutsu. The Uchiha clan had always excelled at illusion techniques, but Shisui approached the art from a completely different angle. Rather than simply creating false images or sensations, he began to explore the deeper mechanisms of consciousness and perception itself. These techniques were considered impossible to master, requiring not just incredible chakra control, but also a profound understanding of human psychology and the nature of reality itself. But Shisui's true genius lay in his adaptability. Each new countermeasure forced him to evolve his techniques in unexpected ways. When enemies tried to limit his movement, he developed methods of flickering through solid objects. When they attempted mathematical prediction, he introduced random elements that made his patterns impossible to calculate. When they tried to track his afterimages, he learned to create false afterimages that led pursuers into carefully prepared traps. This constant evolution of his abilities made Shisui one of the most unpredictable opponents in the shinobi world. No two encounters with him were ever the same, as he continuously refined and reinvented his techniques based on each new challenge. His fighting style became a living artwork, constantly changing and growing in response to the world around him. During this period of intense development, Shisui also began to notice troubling changes within his own clan. The Uchiha's resentment toward the village leadership was growing stronger with each passing year, fueled by a combination of legitimate grievances and carefully manipulated propaganda. Radical voices within the clan were gaining influence, advocating for increasingly aggressive responses to perceived slights and injustices. Shisui found himself in an increasingly difficult position. His loyalty to the village was absolute, but his love for his clan was equally genuine. He could see both sides of the growing conflict, understanding the Uchiha's frustrations, while also recognizing the village leadership's legitimate security concerns. The situation was becoming a powder keg, and Shisui realized that he might be as one of the few people positioned to prevent an explosion. His attempts to mediate between the two sides met with limited success. Many Uchiha viewed his village loyalty with suspicion, seeing it as a betrayal of clan interests. Meanwhile, some village leaders questioned whether any Uchiha could truly be trusted, given the clan's growing militancy. Shisui found himself trusted by both sides, but fully accepted by neither. The pressure of this position began to take its toll on the young shinobi. Despite his incredible abilities and growing reputation, Shisui was still just a teenager dealing with problems that would challenge even the most experienced leaders. The weight of trying to prevent a civil war while maintaining his duties as an ANBU operative and his obligations to his clan created stresses that few could have endured. It was during this challenging period that Shisui formed one of the most important relationships of his life. Among the younger generation of Uchiha was a boy named Itachi, several years Shisui's junior but already showing remarkable potential. Like Shisui, Itachi possessed exceptional abilities combined with a mature understanding of the world around him. Also like Shisui, he seemed to value the village's well-being above narrow clan interests. Recognizing a kindred spirit, Shisui began to take a personal interest in Itachi's development. He saw in the younger boy the same potential for bridging divides and healing wounds that he had always believed he possessed himself. Their relationship began as mentor and student, but quickly evolved into something deeper, a brotherhood forged not by blood, but by shared values and mutual respect. Through their training sessions and philosophical discussions, Shisui began to see a possible solution to the growing crisis. If he could help Itachi develop into the kind of leader the Uchiha clan needed, someone who could guide them away from the path of rebellion while maintaining their pride and dignity, perhaps the coming conflict could be avoided. It was an ambitious plan that required perfect timing and flawless execution, but it offered hope for a peaceful resolution to an increasingly desperate situation. Shisui's mentorship of Itachi became one of the defining relationships of both their lives. The two would spend countless hours together training in secluded groves far from the prying eyes of clan elders and village officials. These sessions went far beyond simple combat instruction. They were philosophical exchanges that shaped both young men's understanding of loyalty, sacrifice, and the true meaning of strength. During one particularly memorable training session, Shisui demonstrated a technique he had been developing in secret. With lightning-fast hand seals, he created what appeared to be a simple genjutsu, but Itachi immediately sensed something different about it. The illusion didn't just affect what he saw or heard, it seemed to influence his very thoughts and emotions, making him feel genuinely peaceful and content in a way that felt completely natural. When the technique ended, Itachi stared at his mentor with a mixture of awe and concern. He had experienced many powerful genjutsu in his young life, but nothing that had felt so real, so fundamentally convincing. Shisui explained that he was working on techniques that went beyond traditional illusions methods that could influence a person's deepest convictions and beliefs without them ever realizing they had been affected. The implications were staggering. In the wrong hands, such abilities could be used to control minds, manipulate leaders, and reshape entire societies according to one person's will. But Shisui's vision was different. He believed these techniques could be used to heal psychological wounds, resolve conflicts without violence, and help people find peace within themselves. It was an idealistic dream, but one that resonated deeply with Itachi's own desire to protect innocent life. As Shisui continued to develop these advanced genjutsu techniques, he began to uncover secrets about his own bloodline that had been lost for generations. Deep within the Uchiha clan's most restricted archives, he discovered references to a legendary ability called Kotoamatsukami, described in ancient texts as the ultimate genjutsu technique. According to these fragmented records, Kotoamatsukami could completely rewrite a person's memories and personality, essentially allowing the user to control another person's mind without them ever knowing they were being controlled. The technique was supposedly so powerful that it could only be used by those who possessed a special evolution of the Mangekyo, Sharingan, an advanced form of the bloodline limit that required incredible trauma to awaken. Most Uchiha who achieved the Mangekyo Sharingan eventually went blind from using its power, making it a double-edged sword that granted incredible abilities at the cost of one's sight. Shisui's research into Kotoamatsukami became an obsession. He spent every free moment studying the ancient texts, trying to piece together the scattered references and incomplete descriptions. The technique represented everything he had been working toward, a way to resolve conflicts without violence, to heal divisions without bloodshed, and to create understanding where there had been only hatred. But unlocking the secrets of Kotoamatsukami would require Shisui to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, and that meant experiencing trauma severe enough to trigger the evolution. For someone who had dedicated his life to protecting others and preventing suffering, the idea of deliberately seeking out such pain was almost unthinkable. As the political situation in Konoha continued to deteriorate, Shisui found himself under increasing pressure from multiple directions. The Uchiha clan's radical faction was growing bolder in their rhetoric, openly discussing the possibility of a coup against the village leadership. Meanwhile, certain members of the village council were beginning to view the entire Uchiha clan as a security threat, advocating for increasingly harsh measures to keep them under control. Shisui's position as an ANBU operative gave him access to classified information about both sides of the growing conflict. He learned that some Uchiha were secretly gathering weapons and planning strategic strikes against key village installations. At the same time, he discovered that certain village officials were developing contingency plans for dealing with what they termed the Uchiha problem. Plans that ranged from mass imprisonment to complete elimination of the clan. The weight of this knowledge was crushing. Shisui realized that he was perhaps the only person who fully understood how close Konoha was to tearing itself apart. Both sides were convinced that they were acting in self-defense, preparing for an attack that the other side was supposedly planning. It was a perfect storm of miscommunication, mistrust, and mutual fear that was driving two groups who should have been allies toward an inevitable conflict. His attempts to share this information with moderate voices on both sides met with limited success. Many Uchiha refused to believe that their fellow clan members would actually resort to violence, while most village officials dismissed his warnings as the naive idealism of a young operative who didn't understand the true scope of the threat. Shisui found himself increasingly isolated, trusted by individuals on both sides, but unable to convince either group to step back from the brink. He knew that if the coup was allowed to proceed, it would tear the village apart, leading to a conflict that could destroy Konoha and the Uchiha clan itself. After much deliberation, Shisui arrived at a painful conclusion. The only way to stop the rebellion and avert war was to use his Kotoamatsukami, the powerful mind control genjutsu that allowed him to manipulate the thoughts and actions of others without them even realizing it. His plan was to target Fugaku Uchiha, the leader of the Uchiha clan, and force him to abandon the coup. With Fugaku's influence neutralized, Shisui believed the rebellion would lose its momentum and disband. However, the use of such a powerful technique was not without risks. Kotoamatsukami required immense precision and caution, and Shisui knew that once it was used, he would likely become a target for anyone who sought to undo his work. But just as Shisui was preparing to take action, Danzo Shimura, the leader of the Root Anbu, and a man with his own agenda for Konoha's future, intervened. Danzo had long harbored his own plans for the village, plans that involved a brutal and dictatorial vision of peace. He saw the Uchiha clan as a threat to Konoha's stability, believing that their power could one day be used against the village. While Shisui was driven by the desire to protect both the village and the Uchiha clan, Danzo's perspective was more self-serving. He believed that the Uchiha clan could never be trusted, and the only way to ensure peace was through total control. Danzo, who had long been working in the shadows, saw Shisui's actions as an obstacle to his plans. He knew that Shisui's Kotoamatsukami could thwart the coup and the ambitions of his own faction. To preserve his own power and protect his version of Konoha, Danzo made a fateful decision. He would take Shisui's eyes for himself. In a cruel twist of fate, Danzo, who had secretly collected multiple Sharingan from fallen Uchiha clan members, activated the forbidden Izanagi technique. This technique, which allowed its user to manipulate reality itself by turning their death or injury into an illusion, was Danzo's trump card. As Shisui prepared to use Kotoamatsukami to stop Fugaku, Danzo ambushed him, using Izanagi to momentarily escape death and steal Shisui's right eye. The Elder's ruthless tactics caught Shisui off guard, and the precious Sharingan that had once belonged to his fallen comrades was now in Danzo's hands. Though Shisui initially overpowered Danzo, the situation quickly spiraled out of control. The cunning and deceptive nature of Danzo Izanagi allowed him to break free from Shisui's grasp. The brutal reality of the situation sank in. Danzo had outmaneuvered him. Now with Shisui's right eye in his possession, Danzo held the power to control the very thing that Shisui had hoped to use to protect the village and its people. As the Uchiha clan surrounded him, Shisui realized that he had little time left. His only option was to escape if he could. He had hoped that by using his Kotoamatsukami, he could stop the coup and avoid bloodshed. But now, with his eye stolen and his plans unraveling, he knew that his fate was sealed. Danzo, ever the opportunist, was not about to let Shisui go free. With his eye taken, Shisui had no choice but to flee, knowing that if he stayed, Danzo would likely kill him to keep his secret intact. In a final act of desperation, Shisui managed to escape, though he knew his enemies would soon come after him for the remaining Sharingan in his left eye. But before he left, Shisui entrusted that eye to his closest friend, Itachi Uchiha, knowing that Itachi was the only one who could understand the gravity of the situation. Itachi, despite his young age, was already a brilliant and compassionate shinobi, and Shisui hoped that, in time, Itachi would be able to save the Uchiha clan from the darkness that was consuming them. Shisui wrote a suicide note telling his clan that he could no longer follow through with their plan. He expressed his regret that the Uchiha had become so blinded by hatred and ambition that they couldn't see the path to peace. But Shisui also hoped that, by sacrificing his life and his legacy, he could give the clan a chance to redeem themselves. He knew that his actions would be misunderstood, but he believed that true peace could only be achieved if the Uchiha clan abandoned their dreams of rebellion. In the end, Shisui's sacrifice was both a tragedy and a triumph. He died trying to protect both his village and his comrades, knowing that his actions would leave a lasting impact. Although his death was shrouded in secrecy, his legacy lived on through Itachi and the actions of those who would later carry on his ideals of peace. Shisui's lasting influence. Having been a core member of his clan, Shisui's suicide demoralized and weakened the Uchiha's fighting power. Throughout his lifetime, and even in death, Shisui's influence on Itachi was immense as a friend, teaching him self-sacrifice, and how a true shinobi must protect his village from within its own shadow. This influence possibly shaped Itachi's future actions, including staving off a potential civil war within the village, preventing what could have escalated into a world war. Shisui's effort to erase his very corpse was successful, as even Kabuto Yakushi, who tried to reincarnate him during the Fourth Shinobi World War, noticed that he was unable to locate Shisui's remains. Despite leaving a note stating that he was tired of carrying out the clan's duties, the Uchiha police suspected Itachi had murdered him, and used his Sharingan to forge the suicide note, as suicide was unlikely for someone like Shisui. Itachi, using Shisui's death to his advantage, later told Sasuke that he had indeed killed Shisui to awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan and forge the suicide note. Itachi's goal was to motivate Sasuke to kill him as a penance for his crimes. Even years after his death, Shisui's powers and actions continued to leave a mark on the world. While Danzo used the eye he stole for his questionable agendas to maintain control over the village, Itachi kept Shisui's other eye to honor his friend's final wish, to protect the village and keep the Uchiha name intact. Itachi placed Shisui's eye inside a crow, planning to implant it in Naruto's body as a countermeasure if Sasuke ever learned the truth behind the Uchiha clan's massacre and sought to destroy Konoha. However, due to the immense power that Shisui's eyes held, they were eventually destroyed to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. Danzo destroyed one of Shisui's eyes in the final moments of the battle to keep Tobi from acquiring it, and a reincarnated Itachi incinerated the crow after Kotoamatsukami was used on him. Yet, Itachi also stated that above all, Shisui wanted someone to inherit his will and ideals, believing Naruto to be that person. Shisui, character traits. Shisui was a humble and down-to-earth individual. He was never arrogant about his talent or accomplishments, but he wasn't afraid to point out mistakes in others. He was open-minded, never stubbornly clinging to a single ideal. He always sought to see the uniqueness of each situation before him. Shisui was also deeply compassionate, even towards his enemies. He showed kindness to a dying Mukai Kohinata, despite being ordered to assassinate him as a traitor. Shisui was perceptive and intuitive, able to see through the emotional natures of others and notice even the smallest details around him. Shisui cared greatly for Itachi, almost like a big brother. He taught Itachi that self-sacrifice, being a nameless shinobi who protects peace from within its shadows, was the true mark of a shinobi. He was also very devoted to the Uchiha clan, which is why the Konoha military police had him spy on Itachi. His devotion was so strong that the police didn't believe he could have committed suicide. Shisui's loyalty to his village was equally strong, and he never fell victim to the curse of hatred. He was determined to prevent his clan from going down a path of destruction, even though his clan was ignorant of his desire to protect Konoha. His devotion led him to attempt to use his genjutsu, Kotoamatsukami, on Fugaku Uchiha, to stop the Uchiha coup. Unfortunately, this plan failed when Danzo stole Shisui's right eye, knowing that his hunger for power would not let him allow Shisui to succeed in his goal. Shisui's regret over a past mistake, where he withheld aid from a friend out of jealousy, caused him to awaken his Mangekyo Sharingan. He viewed it as a constant reminder of his guilt and vowed to never again let such feelings cloud his judgment.